Hello everybody, welcome back to the Warlock series. Excuse me guys, how are we all doing today? Right now we are 2-0 and we have a very lovely hand. This is looking really amazing guys. Zombie Chow is always really good on the on turn 1. It's basically a river croc for just 1 mana, which can allow you to cheat a mana here or there. Especially with this particular curve, you might say, oh nice, we'll just keep everything, this is good, right? But if we look over what we're going to do in our turns, it's actually not smart to keep everything. So let's go over it, right? Turn 1, we're going to want to play Zombie Chow. Turn 2, we're probably going to coin out Harvest Golem. And turn 3, we can play the Horse Rider. So why is the Leper Gnome in there? It's not, I mean, it's not terrible, right? It's a flexible card, right? So the Leper Gnome, it might end up filling in a gap somewhere, but I'd much rather just look for one of our 4-drops, which is fairly rare in this deck. We do have 2 Shredders, the Dwarf, perhaps even Implosion, so I think it's better to throw away the Gnome. So that's a system that I use quite a bit. It's when I have my mulligan in front of me, I actively go over the turns. I'm like, okay, what are my turns? And then when a card doesn't make sense for those turns, I mean, you chuck it and you look for something better. Obviously, the North Sea Kraken is much better. But yeah, you have to look for that 4-drop there. Alright, Bomb Lobber is not terrible. Now we need to hit a 4, and we've got a really, really good curve. So we'll see how that ends up here, guys. Played against Paladin. Oh, and he has a really slow start. So he didn't have a turn 1, and he barely has a turn 2 with a 1-1. So there's no reason to coin the Horse Rider here. If our opponent had played a Bloodfen Raptor, using the Horse Rider would have been pretty cool. But now we can just use the Zombie Chow into the 1-1, coin out the Harvest Golem, and we have a very, very comfortable board lead. At the end of turn 2, we've got a 2-2 and 2-3 that respawns, and he's got nothing. That's how I like to calculate the advantage on the table. Right now you see here, turn 2 gone, turn 2 done, and this is the net advantage, which is pretty sick because yeah, that's now on the table, but we still get to play our turn 3, which is pretty cool. Alright, let's talk about Consecration. Consecration here, you can alter your play because the obvious play would be to use the Harvest Golem that wouldn't die and then play the Horse Rider. Now, if we do that, then Consecration kills the Zombie Chow, the Horse Rider, and makes the Harvest Golem respawn. So in the very, very worst case scenario, the Harvest Golem is still going to respawn. I'm fine with that. I think that's okay. If the difference was this Harvest Golem not respawning, say the Harvest Golem would have died in the trade, we would have chucked in the Zombie Chow. So, but because the Harvest Golem still gets the respawn if he consecrates, it's fine because let's face it, he needs one of those cards to bring it back right now, right? If he doesn't have Consecration, it is going to be a very difficult game for him. Consecration allows him to trim the board quite a bit. So we'll see what he wants to whip out here. Because we are just up 6 power. True Silver, still a very good card. And he hits into the Harvest Golem, which is basically screaming, I've got Consecration! I've got Consecration! So right now, we have a very, very good read on him that he has Consecration. That means that we still have to play the Amani. You might say, Shady, why would you play another thing if you know he has AoE? Because the Amani doesn't die to the AoE and will force the weapon onto the Amani because he doesn't want to leave a 5-1. So he'll probably have to weapon down the Amani and then consecrate. Which is decent for him. He gets to fully reset the board and he'll only be down a 5-drop then. Whereas now he's down, you know, a 1-drop, a 3-drop, a 2-drop. It's quite bad. So face into the Amani, and now we're expecting Consecration, but he didn't do anything. Also note, guys, let's rewind this for just a second. There are these subtle tells in your opponent's play that you can, like, first of all, we've got a really good read that he's got Consecration, right? We've got a pretty damn good read because he just popped that Harvest Golem. I want you guys to pay attention to his cards, and this is something I'll do quite often. when I'm playing in order to get more information. Alright, pay attention. Wait for it. It's going to kill the Amani, and then it's going to reach for a card. There, you saw it? Far left. He was like... So, first of all, we have really good reasons to suspect him having a consecration. Honestly, if you were to ask me, Shady, would you put money on the fact that you're getting consecrated this turn? I would have said yes. I would have said like, yeah, put me down for like $10 or whatever. I would have lost because he's not going to consecrate. But, I mean, unless he is just very, very, I don't know, unless he's just doing really random stuff, hitting into that Harvest Golem almost guarantees the fact that he has a consecration in his hand. But he's going to opt to play another minion. Now, this is a strategy. This is essentially what our opponent hopes that we're going to do. Our opponent hopes that we are going to ignore this 5 and 5, play a dude, go face, and then he can consecrate all our minions away. Now, obviously, that is extremely greedy, because against Paladin, you do not want any minions to survive. So we have a couple plays here. We could play Frostwolf Warlord and put absolutely everything into the 5 and 5, or we just play Bomblower and put the 2-1 in. I'm very fine just using Bomblower and put the 2-1 in. It still connects face for, well, the Argent Horse Rider or the Damage Golem, it's fine. We still connect for 4 face damage. His board is entirely wiped. It's still fine. And we can still play Leper Gnome and Frostwolf Warlord next turn. So, that's cool. To Northrend, it's a pretty good card for him. So he is gaining, like he's closing the gap, but not fast enough. He's getting a little bit of redemption on the board, but it's not going fast enough. Especially not now. We basically put the nail in the coffin and go Leper Gnome plus Frostwolf, which means we'll have 3 small guys plus a really big guy. We'll trade one in, so we have 2 small guys and a really big guy, but now consecration is no longer an answer. So we feel like he sat on that consecration a little bit too long, trying to get value out of it, and now he's getting punished for it, because not wiping out those minions early means that we'll have a 7/7 now, which is no good for him. Okay, I'm not sure what happened in this turn. Let me think about it. I'll see once I know what his first move is. Okay. Are you guys ready? Discard, consecration. Oh yeah. So I remember that at the time I couldn't believe that he didn't consecrate earlier. I was like, where did that card come from? Was it the far left? Was it the far right? And I watched it on the replay on the stream, and I was like, what? That came from the far left. And I mean, obviously it's extremely greedy, but watching it now in the replay, I can understand what he was thinking, right? I can understand what he was thinking. I still think it was wrong because he was just super greedy, and like he had a decent chance if he just consecrated us early. He had a decent chance to just kind of reset the board, try to, you know, get back on that way, because he just lost way too hard early. He wanted the consecration where he got the board back, but that was never gonna happen. Okay, guys, you might say, Shady, why are we putting a 7 damage minion into an Imp Master? The answer is then the dragon becomes 5 and we can play Spider plus Dragon. So there's actually a legit reason that we put the dragon down. Alright guys, so our Paladin opponent is now paying for his greed because he didn't consecrate early on. We were able to get a Frostwolf Warlord going, and whenever you have a high health minion versus Paladin, if they don't have Aldor Peacekeeper or Equality, they have nothing to deal with it, right? So it's one of Paladin's weaknesses. They don't have many. We just drew into lethal. Very nice. Like Paladins don't have a lot of weaknesses, but high health minions are one of them. It's pretty good. Backstab is another one of Paladin's weaknesses. Stuff for good early board control. Alright, there we go, guys. Wham, bam, 3-0. Good stuff. So a good example of how you can get some reads from your opponent depending on, you know, where they're touching their cards. So that was a really subtle thing, but glad that I was able to give that here in this game. Okay guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow.